Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, as we know, Elon Musk controls Twitter now. He is the CEO. He's been the CEO for several weeks now, and there's already been some changes. You're seeing Trump reinstated to Twitter. You are also seeing a lot of people who lost their accounts for BS reasons starting to be reinstated. Not everybody's reinstated. It's still not entirely perfect. Elon said he will not reinstate some people that probably should be reinstated, but that's beside the point. Either way, Elon controlling Twitter is a net positive, and we know that it is a net positive. And one of the reasons why we do know it's a net positive is that he is going scorched earth and releasing a lot of the Twitter files regarding how they conducted themselves as a social media platform during the 2020 election. And this is absolutely huge because now we know for a fact that social media had a clear bias and it had a clear objective to do anything they possibly can to suppress correct information just in order to help Joe Biden defeat Donald Trump in the 2020 election. So we're going to dive into the Twitter files right here, but first I have to tell you guys about our good friends over at Noble Gold. So 2022 has shown us what might be coming. So if you're fed up with everything being so expensive and the threat of recession hanging over us, it's time to take action. A precious metals IRA uses tax-advantaged gold and silver to keep inflation at bay and give you protection from financial nightmares. And you'll get a free, stunning 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin if you open a qualifying IRA account this month. You cannot go wrong with Noble Gold Investments. Call 877-646-5347 to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember, there's always a risk of loss, and past performance is not indicative of future results. So, the Twitter files. Here we go. We're going to read them. This was actually leaked by a journalist who is now working as Elon's PR guy, Matt Taibbi, who angered a lot of his old followers because he's actually just, getting involved with this and they're throwing a temper tantrum about it, which is kind of besides the point, but it is still pretty funny. So let's read these. We're going to gloss over them. We'll focus more on the bombshell aspects of this report. But he said, what you're about to read is the first installment in a series. So there's going to be more of these, by the way. I might make more videos on them. But we'll have to see. But based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter, these tell an incredible story from inside one of the world's most largest and influential social media platforms. It's a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of the control of its designer. And a lot of these big tech companies have been. Twitter, in its conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. In an early conception, it more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. And that is true. And Elon has decided to buy Twitter, or he bought Twitter. He said that he wants to make it more of a free speech platform. Is it going to be perfect? And not necessarily. There are still some people that have not been let on. But either way, it is a step in the right direction. And this is part of that. But it is true. It's not a free speech platform anymore. People can't speak freely. You have to speak within the guidelines of whatever the big tech oligarchs say is appropriate speech. And a lot of these people tend to be on the left, and that's a major problem. And then he says, as time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Slowly over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well. Yeah, this is true. A lot of these lobbyists and watchdog organizations, whatever, they will make sure that these social media companies fall in line because they want to control free speech. And one of these organizations that was involved and did everything they could do to lobby Twitter to change what they allowed on their platform was the Biden campaign in 2020. 2016, they were caught off guard. 2020, on the other hand, they had to do everything possible to make sure that conservative speech or any pro-Trump speech was limited, especially if these were, big scandals that would hurt Joe Biden. And this is true. You look at this here. The Biden team would have direct contact with Twitter here, and they would send tweets that they wanted removed to be removed. And then the Twitter team would come back and say that they handled them. And a lot of these had to do with the Hunter Biden laptop situation, which has now been quote unquote authenticated. They say authenticated, but basically they admitted it was real in the New York Times. They finally were forced to admit that it was not doctored evidence, and it clearly wasn't at the time. But now we do know that this was actually what they were doing. They were doing everything possible to suppress what was going on at the time, and they did. And they said celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. This is true. People like James Woods, the actor, who is a conservative, he got censored before the election for talking about this as well. And this guy did say that both parties did have access to these tools. There were requests from both campaigns. However, it was not balanced whatsoever. It was based on contacts, and because of the fact that Twitter, again, 99.7% of employees or so donated to Democrats, that's a massive, massive problem. So a lot of the contacts were from the left. It was more open to the left than it was the right. And what did it lead to? Massive censorship of things that were true. Meanwhile, things that were not true about Donald Trump that were debunked time and time again, things like he called military servicemen losers, that comment, whatever. There were plenty of other lies that they made up about Donald Trump. They allowed them to trend nonstop on Twitter for days and weeks on end. However, when it came to the Hunter Biden story or the quid pro quo, etc., with Biden, Burisma, Hunter, etc., they did not allow that to trend. In fact, if anybody tweeted about it, they would get their account taken down. And this is very true. And polls show that a majority of Americans say that this censorship did have an impact on the election back in 2020. And also, 1 in 6 Biden voters, according to several polls, would have changed their mind had they known the full story that was suppressed by big tech, by the news media, by Twitter in particular. And again, the news media is not covering this bombshell either. You talk about what's going on with the New York Times, CNN, etc. They didn't bring this up once in the New York Times today in particular. A lot of the mainstream media is sweeping this under the rug, as they have been, but it's absolutely insane what's going on there. But furthermore, it goes deeper. The resulting slant in content moderation is visible in the documents you're about to read. However, it's also the assessment of current and former high-level executives. The Twitter Files Part 1, How and Why Twitter Blocked the Hunter Biden Laptop Story. On October 14th, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of the abandoned laptop. Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and posting warnings that it may be unsafe. They even blocked its transmission via direct messages, which again, that tool of blocking has been reserved for extreme cases of illegal activity, but they still blocked it in DMs. You couldn't DM it to people on social media, in particular Twitter in this case. And we know it goes far deeper than Twitter. We understand that Facebook has likely been involved with massive censoring of these stories. A lot of other social media sites have as well. But now this is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's starting to come out. And we knew this already, but how blatant it is when you look at this and you look at the handled thing here, when they were just sending these tweets over and saying, review these, take them down. The Democrats at Twitter, the liberals that work there that donate to Biden, what are they going to do? They're going to take these tweets and they're going to take them down. Suspend these accounts. You're going to shut people out of the public square because they're telling the truth about Biden and they need to cover for their boy. And this is very true, but they really can't do that anymore because of the fact that Elon is at least trying to make it a more neutral platform. Now, we'll see what happens to it. We'll see where it goes from here. But either way, this is a big step in the right direction for transparency. And this honestly bolsters Trump's 2024 prospects in a primary as well, because now there's concrete evidence that big tech worked overtime to prevent him from being elected. And when you see polls like this, 1 in 6 Biden voters would have changed their minds if they'd known the full story. It doesn't even need to be 1 in 6. It could be 1 in 100 across the swing states. You talk about Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia. Trump, if you just had 20,000 voters flip to Donald Trump across those 3 states, whether if it was 10,000 in Wisconsin, 5,000 in Arizona and Georgia, whatever, Trump would have been reelected. He would have gotten 269 electoral votes. He would have won in the House. But because of this, because of the suppression of actual information, apparently he fell short. And this is very true. And they had to crack down on this. There's a reason why they did everything they could do to censor news outlets like InfoWars, taking them off first, because they definitely had a big role in Donald Trump's election back in 2016. A lot of other people, a lot of grassroots accounts, they've been deboosted. A lot of corporate media have been boosted even further, and this is a massive problem. So anyone that denies that bias doesn't exist on big tech, this basically just takes a hammer to that right here, because we understand how this has worked. And White House press secretary at the time, Kayleigh McEnany, was locked out of her account for tweeting about the story. And then a furious letter from a Trump campaign staffer was released that was sent to Twitter, which led to public policy executive Carolyn Strom to send it a polite WTF query. Several employees noted that there was tension between the comms policy teams, who had little less control over moderation, and the safety trust team. So nothing, I believe, really came of that. And apparently the note returned the answer that the laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked materials policy. So basically they admit that it's real, but you couldn't talk about it because hacked materials or whatever, despite the fact that Hunter Biden was dumb enough to leave the laptop somewhere with, I believe, a repair shop that likely, I believe, had access to his password in order to repair it, but never picked it up, which again was one of the dumbest things in the world, but I wouldn't expect any less from Hunter Biden. So either way, doesn't exactly seem like that's a fair thing that adds up, especially given the fact that this is somebody who is the son of the man who is running for president of the United States. This is still a big news story. You talk about a lot of these hacked emails from the right or from the left. They've been posted time and time again on social media for years now, but now because it's going to affect their golden boy, Joe Biden, well, apparently it has to be taken down. So furthermore, although several sources recalling hearing about a general warning from the federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. The decision was made at the highest levels of the company, but without the knowledge of Jack Dorsey, but also with the former head of legal policy and trust, Vijaya Gadde, playing a role. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. Hacking was the excuse, but pretty much everyone realized that that wasn't going to hold, but nobody had the guts to reverse it, which is true because they understand that it was a BS reason, but nobody was actually going to step forward and decide to change that because of the fact that they understand the intimidation factor. The liberals that are high up at Twitter, many of them have quit, or many of them have been fired now, which is a very good thing, but still that was a massive problem. And it did affect a lot of people's views of Biden. A lot of people in the middle, had they known about this, would have potentially changed their votes, which again makes Twitter at the front and center of election interference, you could say, a lot more so than, oh, but Russia in 2016, because there were some poorly placed Facebook ads that they put that sowed division on both sides, or whatever they wanted to say. But either way, it did not impact 2016 whatsoever. This, on the other hand, may very well have impacted 2020 to a large degree, because this was such a massive story that ended up being suppressed. So then this basically just goes on and on to talk about the drama that underlies within this scandal here. And then Twitter at the end, this is the last tweet in this thread, said, "The First Amendment isn't absolute. The letter contains chilling passages relaying Democrat lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation. And as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute." So they say that the First Amendment is not absolute, and they want them to be consistent with the First Amendment. But basically, anything that they disagree with apparently is against the First Amendment in their view. And that is how they view this, and that is how they view social media. Even they understand that social media companies should work in line with the Constitution regarding their content moderation, but pretty much everything that they happen to disagree with, oh, that goes against the First Amendment, whatever. And that's a major problem here. And beyond that point, they believe that, oh, it's going to be a damaging thing to democracy, or whatever they want to say, as long as it makes Donald Trump look good and makes their golden boy look bad, because they act like tyrants, because they are tyrants. All they care about is power. And that's pretty much it. So they did everything possible that they could do to suppress the story that made Joe Biden look bad. But now we know, and there's a lot more than this. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But we know that big tech was working overtime during 2020 to make sure that voters did not hear the scandals of Biden. But they also worked overtime to amplify fake debunked scandals about Donald Trump that you obviously don't hear about now because the election was 2 years ago, and the second that Biden was declared the winner by the mainstream media, you didn't hear about those scandals whatsoever. So that's pretty much it. And it shows how these big tech companies operate, and this is the tip of the iceberg. But ahead of 2024, if you do see Twitter become a more fair platform, and hopefully Donald Trump does rejoin Twitter, it's going to be a lot easier for Donald Trump to defeat Joe Biden if he does get the nomination, or whoever gets the nomination. It will be easier for them to defeat Joe Biden because of the fact that you have freer social media. Obviously, Twitter's just one platform. There's a lot of other platforms, but still, who knows what's going to happen. It's possible that if Twitter proves itself profitable as a big tech platform that does not censor nearly as much, maybe you will see Facebook, Instagram, etc., YouTube, take their foot off the gas and censor less. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.